Hello YouTube, this is Seth. Now it's crazy how a $5 Raspberry Pi can outperform computers that were worth thousands of dollars when I was a little kid. Now Moore's Law may be slowing down, but computing power has continued to improve year after year, and with those improvements comes an influx of older systems onto the used market. Craigslist is filled with old computers that nobody wants that can be used for great little projects or older gaming. One day while browsing Craigslist, I came across a guy who was selling a bunch of older HB computers. Apparently they were clearing out from an elementary school who was doing an upgrade. These were computers with Athlon X2 processors, 2GB of RAM, and 80GB hard drives for $20 a pop. So I bought several of them. A little while later I also came across a guy who was selling some Radeon HD 8570s for $7 each, which is a fantastic deal. And then a quick trip to eBay and 4GB of RAM later, I had two completely working systems for $35 each. The specs are as follows. The processor is a little less powerful than the average Core 2 Duo. This puts it on a level similar to a Braswell Pentium. The graphics card has 1GB of VRAM, and it's a little more powerful than the iGPU on modern desktop, Coffee Lake CPUs. Now to call this thing a gaming PC in 2017 would be a bit of a stretch. It's not really going to play any modern AAA titles very well. But it did cost me $35. The system as a whole should be more powerful than, say, a PS3, and it can also be turned into a pretty capable emulation machine. I know a lot of people like to use Raspberry Pi 3s as neat little emulation boxes. I have one myself and I love it. But the Raspberry Pi 3 cost me the same amount as this entire system, and that's not including the SD card, the case, the power supply, or any other accessories you may want. Now I think it's safe to say that this computer will kick the pants off of any Raspberry Pi in terms of performance. This thing is a fantastic emulation machine, emulating up to Nintendo 64 and PS1 without a hint of problems. GameCube can be a struggle for some games, but I was actually able to get it to run at full speed for most of the games that I tested, including Super Smash Bros. And The Wind Waker. I won't show those games for copyright concerns, but here's it running Soul Calibur 2.
Yeah, come on!
Offer your soul. Battle 1. Fight!
I did some tweaking in PCS X2 to try to get PS2 emulation working, and
Welcome to the Gadgetron Help Desk.
yeah, that's not happening. I tried using different speed hacks and frame skipping, but it didn't really seem to give any huge improvement, sometimes even making it worse. Battlefront 2, the real Battlefront 2, is completely unplayable. Of course, you can just run the same game through Steam, which this computer crushes, but that should be a given. Talking about Steam, this thing is not bad at all for playing some lower end and older titles. It can even squeeze out some nearly playable frame rates for some pretty recent games too. On to the benchmarks. Rocket League saw a lot of stuttering in the first minute of the match, making it basically unplayable. This is possibly because of the slow hard drive that I was playing the games off of. After the first minute, however, the frame times stabilized out, and it was actually pretty good. It struggled a lot with Shadow of Mordor, but it was actually surprisingly playable. I probably wouldn't want to play it like this, but if you don't have any other way to play it, it's actually pretty manageable. All of these tests were run at 1080p. Changing the resolution down to 720p didn't make any difference in the frame rates, which tells me that there's a CPU limitation. The HD8570 is actually a pretty capable little chip. Definitely slow by today's standards, but still usable. These systems work for, of course, many other things as well. Regular Office and YouTube works great. I wouldn't really use it for any editing or serious work, but as a normal media consumption computer, it works well. But there are so many different things you can do with these kinds of systems, one of which is running a media server. Running something like Kodi or Plex or any other media server, the processor may not be powerful enough to transcode the data on the fly, but if you have pre-compressed data, it'll work great as a media host. I also tried out running a Minecraft server with MineOS, which actually worked pretty well. There were a few hiccups here and there, and I wouldn't really trust it to handle a lot of connections, but for 2 or 3 people trying to play a game, it actually worked great. Now, I personally wouldn't use this as a home theater PC, mainly because of the size and the amount of noise it puts out. It's not too loud, but it's definitely noticeable. But for $35, to me, this is still a steal. Now, I did get pretty lucky with these deals, and you may not be able to find ones as good in your area, especially for the graphics cards. But these systems are everywhere, from schools and businesses who are trying to upgrade, so try asking around. You may be able to find some great deals on some old hardware. Thanks for watching. See ya.